Today's video is brought to you by Arena Breakout Infinite. Check out the link in the description below and in the pinned comment to get your hands on gameplay for free. Extraction shooters are very quickly becoming the most popular mode amongst most first-person shooters throughout the entire industry. So it's no surprise that in a very short space of time, we've seen a number of games come out. But this is Arena Breakout Infinite, the first free-to-play stab at the extraction genre, with a game that aims to do everything that people enjoy about titles like Tarkov, but improving upon the formula and also offering it free of charge. A quick shout out to the guys over at Arena Breakout Infinite for sponsoring this video today, because getting hands on with the game was actually a pleasant surprise. Because for those of you who are familiar with Tarkov, ABI is doing a lot of things that Tarkov does well, but it's also adding another layer on top of that in terms of functionality, in terms of simple things that just tend to work better, and also a more tolerable solo experience that I feel makes this game a little bit different in places, but not in a bad way. Arguably the biggest complaint of pretty much any extraction shooter is that whilst they are fun to play as a group, playing them solo feels nearly impossible. But in Arena Breakout Infinite, it actually hasn't been that difficult at all. The solo experience that I've had thus far in the game has probably been one of the most positive in the extraction space. At a fundamental level, Arena Breakout Infinite has a lot of parallels to games like Tarkov, with in-depth ammunition, in-depth healing mechanics, and in-depth looting mechanics that aim to have you in a more tactical environment whilst you peruse through the various maps that are available. And all of the maps are split across different difficulty levels that allow you to have more intense experiences and less intense experiences based on the loot you have. There are mission trees, there is pretty much everything you would expect from an extraction shooter to be in there, a strong inventory system, a market system, and a mission system that progressively moves you from stage to stage in a level circumstance against other players. The more your level goes up and the more risks you're willing to take, the more you can go in and take more risks. With the flip side being that more dangerous areas and more dangerous extractions tend to promote better loot. And the game's mission arcs and contracts that are available will naturally progress you through those stages. So if you're somebody who has played Escape from Tarkov, everything here is going to feel very similar, and that's a good thing, because there's a lot of stuff that Tarkov has done well. But what separates Arena Breakout Infinite, on top of obviously being free to play and not a premium release, is the fact that this game tends to have a lot of quality of life in departments and simplistic accessibility that I feel makes it better in a lot of places. Some of those quality of life improvements are definitely subjective. For me personally, having name tags in a squad-based experience is something I prefer, however some more hardcore players may be against that. Honestly, for me, it's been such a gripe of past extraction shooters I've played, not being able to identify if somebody is or isn't in my team, and I'm preferring seeing it in this title. But other quality of life improvements just feel fundamentally correct, like having a map system that works really well in terms of dropping markers and using your compass to get to it, having a contextualized inventory system that identifies when two things go together, which ammunition can be loaded into different mags, and also makes you aware that when you go into a new extraction scenario, that some things might be wrong. For example, not bringing enough pistol ammo, not bringing enough medication, not bringing a surgical kit. It will identify flaws that you have in your inventory system to try and assist you as you go in. And really simple things like just highlighting which ammunition goes with which magazine, which attachment works on which weapon, is a really simplistic way of taking in-depth gameplay and making it more broadly accessible and more easy to just jump into. You can go pretty much straight into matchmaking and the game will tell you everything you're probably missing if you're looking for a successful run. And the depth of this quality of life applies to other things as well. For example, there is an in-game spectator cam if you happen to be eliminated, something that sounds really simplistic but isn't actually in competitor titles and allows you to see what your teammates are doing and how they intend on extracting. The in-game map system is super easily accessible, has a marker system, and identifies hot points on the map for you, which is not something that you could say exists in other games either. So the days of having second and third monitors to do basic missions is out the window, and honestly I prefer this system, and having all of it accessible in-game just makes more sense. Each map also features weather and day-night cycles, which is really great to see. There is a shortcut system to access things like health and grenades. So for example, if you're damaged, it will auto-select an item that will immediately address the healing situation that you need. And if you're looking to throw a grenade into the mix, there are accessible shortcuts that make it easy to do so. So all in all, you have quite a complex metagame of looting, health systems, and ballistic systems that are then combined with overarching QOL that just make the game feel a bit more accessible, especially if you're somebody who is newer to the extraction genre, and a solo experience that I feel works better. Once you have things like maps, once you have things like really easy to read inventory systems, the ability to go from point A to point B as a solo player feels less clunky. It feels a little less intimidating in my experience. A lot of the real basics of a good extraction shooter have been thought about here as well that make the solo experience a bit more palatable. Walking in the area of any of the AI that are dotted around the map in various positions, and sometimes ones that are a little bit surprising. You will catch a couple of them on balconies and on rooftops in more like ambush positions, but they will make themselves audibly aware of your presence and vice versa. There should never be a scenario like in other extraction games where an AI just happens to be hiding in a bush, makes no sound whatsoever, and instantly pops you. And whilst they can be aggressive and can deal damage to you, it doesn't make it feel unfair or cheesy in my experience from what I've played so far. And I think that, again, is just a little bit of thought and detail that not only makes the squad play experience easier to access and better to PvP with, but makes the solo experience far less intimidating for the average player. And I really do feel like a lot of extraction shooters have kind of not really thought about solo gameplay a huge amount, and this is the one time where I feel like it just works better. The game also features a fairly in-depth weapon modification system in terms of attachments, and for those of you who have played Tarkov, you will feel very at home here. And also the mechanics generally in terms of how you have an upper body system, in terms of how much stamina you have for breathing, and a lower body system in terms of how much stamina you have for moving, really lets you think about the complexities of the gameplay when you go into different gunfights. You can actually have a kind of trade-off between what you can do sprinting wise and what you can do shooting wise, and both those are visually obvious as well. Things like weapon zeroing, things like cycling through different optics are also available on things like red dot sights, which is really good to see. I'd say the biggest point of Arena Breakout Infinite in terms of two things that it offers that make it different are A, the fact that this thing is entirely free to play, which is something that I don't think people talk about a huge amount in terms of ABI and what we've seen of it publicly so far. At the end of the day, whether you enjoy the gameplay or don't enjoy the gameplay, it isn't coming at a premium cost to you. This is a full premium release without a premium price tag, including an anti-cheat system. And the other major selling point that I see for this is just the general quality of life that make it a more accessible experience without taking away the hardcore depth. Things like having name tags, things like having contextualized inventory menus, things like having the ability to leave markers on the map is really exciting. And also very simple things that you would probably want from an extraction game that haven't featured before, like a real game timeline. When you extract from Arena Breakout Infinite, it tells you the gunfights you got involved in, it tells you how you killed somebody, whether they were a player or an AI, it also tells you what you looted and where you looted to give you a more contextualized breakdown of how an entire round went for you, as well as the amount of money and profit that you made from that extraction. And if you're not looking to risk loot in a very similar vein to scav runs in Tarkov, there is the ability to do a covert run, which gives you randomized gear and better opportunities to extract without the collateral damage of potentially losing anything. So all in all, the package for Arena Breakout Infinite and why they wanted me to check out this game, and again, a huge shout out for them to sponsoring this video, is that I feel from a development perspective, they feel as though they're doing what other games are doing, but also offering a little bit more. They're offering the fact that this doesn't cost cash. They're offering the fact that it has a layer of QOL and thought to it that perhaps hasn't been thought about before. So I genuinely feel as though my time with Arena Breakout Infinite, even as a solo player, and the few times I got a couple of people to join me just to have a look around at what the squad dynamic was like, felt really non-stressful, which is a surprising thing to say about an extraction shooter. Like, most people wouldn't really associate the idea of being able to chill with an extraction shooter. It tends to be a really high stakes scenario. But with Arena Breakout Infinite, I really feel like you can enjoy the intensity of the extraction moments. You can enjoy the sort of loot economy and losing your gear, whilst primarily not necessarily having to think too hard about where something specifically needs to go, because the game just makes it as obvious as it can be to you about the limitations of what you do and don't have and what you can and cannot do. So there's definitely a quality there to appreciate. And again, I do feel as though from a solo experience, both having spectator cams, kill cams, in-game maps, day-night cycles, and shortcuts. There's a sort of silver lining here that makes this game quite attractive to people who have played extraction shooters before. So folks, that's it for this video today. A huge thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed it, leave a thumbs up, and as always, I will see you again in the next one.